Hello and welcome, everyone. I will be calling this July 6th meeting of the City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equity to order. This meeting will be held in 203R and is also being live streamed on the County Legislative Information Center, which is abbreviated as CLIC. It's a hybrid format. This meeting is also being conducted remotely via Microsoft Teams. Anyone who would like to speak to advisory board members during a hybrid meeting is welcome to provide public comment by filling out a public comment card in room 203R or visiting milwaukee.gov/public comment ad hoc and following the instructions. Individuals may also submit a written e-comment via the County Legislative Information Center, known as CLIC. The Office of the County Clerk will collect those e-comments. Madam Coordinator, would you please call the roll?
Advisory Board members Elliott,
Excused.
Fent,
Present.
Frank,
Here.
Helly,
Present.
Craig,
Here.
Maura Makunde,
Excused.
Pritchard,
Excused.
Ratana,
Present.
Schomburger,
Here.
Smith,
Excused.
Webb,
Excused.
Co-Chairperson O'Connor,
Present.
Co-Chairperson Dimitrievich,
Excused.
There are 7 members present, 2 appearing virtually. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Coordinator. Would you please read item 1?
Item 1, approval of the draft minutes from the January 27th, 2026 meeting of the City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equality. And this is an action item.
What is the pleasure of the committee? I move to approve. There's a motion to approve. Linda Frank.
Second.
And a second by Pamela Fent.
Correct.
Madam Coordinator, would you please call the roll?
On the motion by Advisory Board Member Frank, seconded by Advisory Board Member Fent, that the draft minutes from January 27th, 2026 be approved. Advisory Board Member Fent,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Ratana,
Aye.
Schamberger,
Aye.
O'Connor.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. Would you please read item 2 into the record?
Item 2, from the Director of Environmental Sustainability, Environmental Collaboration Office, City of Milwaukee, providing an informational report regarding the City of Milwaukee's Climate and Equity Plan. And this file is informational only.
Yeah, thank you. Eric Schamberger from the City of Milwaukee's Environmental Collaboration Office. I wanted to just provide 3 brief updates on the plan. The first is that we are moving forward with what I would consider a technical update to the plan. to accomplish two things. One, there's lots of references in the plan to the city's Office of Equity and Inclusion and providing reports related to the equity pieces of this plan. In the last budget, in the 2026 budget, the Common Council changed the name of that office to the Office of Compliance or Department of Compliance and Engagement, rather. And so some of the updates pertain to changing the name of that office. The other one was really encouraged by our city attorney's office, and what it does is it shifts probably 10 sentences in the plan from, particularly in the Green Jobs Accelerator section, from basically saying recruitment of jobs are going to go to people of color, and changing that to recruitment will go to people in disadvantaged areas. So it's moving from a race-based rationale to an economics rationale. Of course, we know in Milwaukee that just the way our city is, many people of color live in disadvantaged communities, so I don't really see much of a practical effect on that. It's also intended to align with the city's operational programs, which are race and gender neutral. So the biggest example of that is our residence preference program. So when we do green projects, solar projects, or other projects that receive city funding, we'll have residence preference programs requirements, and those are all based on disadvantaged zip codes. So it kind of aligns all of those things. These updates have gone through the City Plan Commission and will go to our Zoning and Neighborhood Development Committee later this month, at the end of the month. And I will pause there before I give out their updates just on that issue.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? I see a hand up.
Yeah, Pam Fent.
Board Member Fent.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that given the current climate, not to make a pun, but probably the city attorney's office is giving the plan good advice, and I understand the reasons for the language change, and I concur with Mr. Schomburger's analysis that it won't really change the outreach plan or our intended efforts here.
Thank you. Any other comments? Board Member Frank.
Just a question on whether that amendment has now been adopted?
No, it's because the Climate and Equity Plan is part of the citywide comprehensive plan. We're following the timeline set forth by state statutes, which has kind of an extra public comment period associated with it. So it went to the City Plan Commission, and then it has to be open for 30 days before it is adopted by the Z&D Committee. So we skipped a cycle, and now it'll go towards the Zoning and Neighborhood Development Committee, I believe, on the 28th. And then that's a committee, and then it'll have to get adopted by the full council after that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? All right. I guess you can go ahead with other updates on the Climate and Equity Plan. Thank you, Director Schomburger.
Sure. So I wanted to share an opportunity. I know when we had put our climate plan together, there was a lot of interest about what the city's doing, what the county's doing, but then there was this big question of what other local governments in Milwaukee County are doing. Since the plan was adopted, Wauwatosa had hired a part-time sustainability coordinator. So Grant and I, or Director Helly and I, meet with her occasionally. But there is an opportunity to, I think, expand staffing to other communities. So the statewide Focus on Energy program put out a grant solicitation where they will pay $90,000 towards a position for the first over the first year. But then the communities would have to kind of sustain that position with their own funding. And I know smaller communities don't have a lot of funding. So I've sent an email offering to the mayors in the surrounding communities to create a shared sustainability position. We have position authority in ECO, and I just wanted to publicly put that out there for any of the committee members who may live in West Dallas or Shorewood or Whitefish Bay, that they can contact me if they want to try to seize on that opportunity. I think it's a good one. I'll pause there. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members on that item, on that sub-item? I guess I have a question. Is there a deadline associated with that? action
Yeah, so
item?
technically, their initial deadline was, I think it was in June or something like that, and they had funding for 3 positions in 3 different communities. I think they've got applications for 2. And I think part of the challenge for communities was that, it was a pretty fast turnaround to get budget authority for the matching funds, and so most communities didn't reply. So they've opened the deadline. So it's technically it's passed, but they're giving us one more go around here. I think we should get a proposal in by, mid-August at the latest.
Thank you. And I did share with all the North Shore communities.
Oh, great.
Both when the deadline was around the corner and then when it was extended.
Great.
Thanks.
The last update I wanted to provide was on monitoring and accountability. So we have been working with Linda Frank and Jennifer Evans on the call to get more dashboards out there. So we have a public-facing dashboard using, Power BI, Microsoft Power BI. So we kind of moved, we still have that Climate View dashboard, but we got feedback from some of the task force members that it wasn't as user-friendly as it could be. So we built our own with feedback from the community. It is online currently at milwaukee.gov/renewable-ops, which is short for renewable operations. And then we are updating our 2025 greenhouse gas inventory. So we've gotten data back from We Energies, and we're trying to get waste data from Waste Management and some other places. But the 2025 inventory is coming along. So that concludes my update.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Wanted to note Chairwoman Dimitrievich joined us.
Welcome, Co-Chair Dimitrievich. Good to see you. And hi. Hello and welcome. And we'll have you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we'll have you marked in attendance. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coordinator Smith, would you please read in item number 3?
Item 3, from the Director of Environmental Sustainability, Environmental Collaboration Office, City of Milwaukee, providing an informational report regarding electric vehicle charging stations, and this file is information only.
Thank you. As some of you will recall, the City of Milwaukee was awarded a $15 million grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to build a public electric vehicle charging network. We have funding for 53 sites. There is a lengthy environmental review process that we have to go through all of these sites called NEPA, and so we are doing it in batches. The first 13 sites were approved by the Common Council last year. They got NEPA approval, so we have filed for the construction funding on those projects. To date, the federal government has not approved the construction funding, not only on our project, but any of the grantees nationwide. So they're just kind of sitting on the football. I think they're doing that intentionally, in my opinion, although they deny that it's intentional. Dane County is in the same boat. The state's attorney generals from about 13 states have filed lawsuit, which is making its way through the courts to get that construction funding released. We are also waiting to issue an RFP for the vendor to do all of this. I would hope that we would, have the construction funding in hand to encourage the private sector to, be more excited about putting a proposal in, because I think this uncertainty around it could dissuade some partners. But that being said, we can't wait forever. We have to keep this environmental review process going for the additional sites. So we have 20 to 25 sites that we will be taking to the Common Council in about 2 weeks. We have to finalize that list by the 15th, and then it'll be heard about a week after that. There are 3 county park sites that we plan to put on that list, including Hoyt Park, Greenfield Park next to the Cool Waters swimming area, and then also probably McKinley parking lot right across from the Colic Tebow. Even if that's approved, that wouldn't be installed until later because the county is planning to redo that parking lot. I can show briefly on, if I can share my screen, where we're contemplating these. So the phase one sites were mostly city libraries, as well as 5 county parks, and then the Zufari and Conference Center. These are the phase 2 sites. So on this next go around, we are trying to work with private property owners, provided that the lots are open to the public. And so we have letters of intent from Interstate Parking for a number of sites downtown, including a fast charging at the 6th and State parking lot, not too far from here, or 5th and State, by MATC, and a number of other spots downtown. We have a site in Shorewood, a site in the Wauwatosa Village, and then all these other sites that you can see here. We're still would like to find a partner on the south side. We don't have as many on the south side as we would like. We also don't have as many on the east side, as particularly around the North Avenue Entertainment District and Farwell and those areas. So we are still on the hunt for more spots. And again, we will take those to the Common Council in a couple weeks. We also have 2 MPS sites, the new rec area that they're building on North 76th Street, and their main headquarters on Vliet. So that's where we stand. Again, I encourage people to contact us if they know a willing site host. We are in communication with the county. I see Supervisor Wasserman is on the call and has raised some concerns about sites on at some of the parks. So, but we want to get that ironed out before we go in with our batch 3 sites. For what it's worth, we have to have the NEPA approval for all of the sites done by April 1st of 2027. And because that process can take a long time, I'm really hoping to have all of the sites finalized by the first quarter of next year. So happy to answer any questions. I have one other piece of this, which is important. So the funding for this particular grant is all tied up. I mentioned it's getting litigated. The state's NEVI program, however, is moving forward. And they completed the minimum amount of chargers along the interstate system, and they have more funding available for communities. And we have been in discussions with them about potentially using the state funding to get at least some of these batch 1 sites, so we can at least try to get some momentum going to get some of these built, even while the federal lawsuit plays itself out. So that, I think, is my update, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comment? Board Member Fent, please go ahead.
Sorry about that. Mr. Schomburger, can you please remind the group here how many jobs this total project was expected to create?
I don't have a number for all of the jobs, but I will say that the plan that we agreed to is that we would have an apprentice, at least one apprentice on every site. So we had worked with the Joint Electrical and Milwaukee Joint Electrical Apprenticeship Program. They have specialized training for this. So these were union jobs. We still expect them to be most likely union jobs with apprentices on every site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, too. Any other questions or comments from board members? Director Helly.
Thank you. I just really briefly did want to say, and I've said this in a one-on-one setting to Director Schomburger before, but on behalf of the county, I just want to relay our thanks again for your willingness, your office and your staff's willingness to allow Milwaukee County to be a partner on this project and consider sites. And you've been very inclusive and welcoming to allowing our consideration of different locations. So I just wanted to say my thanks on that again.
That's a great point, Director Helly, and I will extend that gratitude as well. It's nice to be included, so thank you. Any other questions, comments from, I see County Supervisor Wasserman on the call. Any other Milwaukee County supervisors or city representatives that would like to speak? All right. It looks like you've turned your mic off, Supervisor Osterman. Did you want to speak?
No, thank you very much, Chairwoman. I'm listening along, and I've had conversations with Mr. Schumberger, and we're going to continue conversations. So, but thank you very much for running this organization, and the two co-chairs with Alderwoman, former Supervisor Dimitrievich, and yourself. We're very pleased that we're working together, both county and the city. So I think this is a great first start of a committee.
Thank you, Supervisor Wasserman. I believe that concludes the item. So Coordinator Smith, would you please read in item number 4, please?
Item 4, from the Director of Environmental Sustainability, Environmental Collaboration Office, City of Milwaukee, providing an action report regarding potential large-scale renewable facilities locations. And this is an action item.
Thank you. So as part of our climate plan, one of the big chapters is greening the grid. It is probably the most important chapter of all of them because where we get our power from undergirds a lot of the other strategies in the plan. So the city is in communications with We Energies to try to build large-scale solar to power city operations. So we have done 3 rounds already with We Energies to build large-scale solar, including a phase 1 that was 2.25 megawatts by the airport on a city-owned landfill. That project is being extended to the full 40 acres down there currently, and I expect that project will be done later this year. I've been down there. It's full of all the rackings in. We're getting the panels installed, as well as on track to meet our residence preference goals on that program, residence preference program goals. We also did another large project in Caledonia, Wisconsin. So on that project, the city gets the renewable energy credit. So all told, when those are done, we'll have over a third of the city's electric needs met by renewable energy. It's equivalent to about 80 municipal buildings, not including the waterworks. So we are now on the lookout for more sites. One of the sites that is a possibility is by the Job Corps in Milwaukee. It's around like 60th and Green Tree, thereabouts. So that is a possibility. But most of the solar developers we talk to prefer bigger, flatter sites. And so you start looking in rural areas. And that obviously gets complicated. People have different feelings about putting solar in rural areas. And in any event, I wanted to raise this whole issue because what better opportunity for the advisory board to weigh in on how we do things than where we site solar. I guess my initial thinking on all of this is if we can do a package deal, maybe with an urban site around Briggs Avenue and couple that with a more rural site. But some of the solar developers I've talked to are, they're out in Waukesha County or further west even, Washington County. So I've insisted that if we're going to do solar, we have it built at least in the region so that it can offset and replace coal and natural gas power plants. I'm not one to invest in renewable energy halfway across the country. But I guess the question for this group is how far, do we support more solar and to power not only city operations, but potentially county and other things in the community? And if so, how far out are we willing to sponsor projects? In terms of how far out in the country are we willing to sponsor projects? So with that, I am open to questions and suggestions, and hopefully by the time we take a plan to the Common Council, a majority of people on this advisory board would support whatever it is we're doing.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. Any questions or comments from members of the committee? Board Member Fenn, you have the floor.
So we're the city-county advisory board. So I do feel like that's sort of our mandate. And I know we can receive electricity from sustainable sources generated elsewhere, but I don't know if there's a way to use the small business utilization or, residents' preference to tie it more closely to the city. I'm just kind of, thinking out loud here, but I concur that that when you said the job center, because then that's a possibility. I don't remember if there's a electrical based program at that job center, but what a great opportunity for those students to be, seeing it up close and personal. So I'm highly in favor of that site. And I guess I'd have to take a little closer look on where the existing ones are and where some areas that you've maybe scoped out a little bit. But I do think that prioritizing its presence here, even just for more people to understand what it is and why we want it, that'd be my thoughts.
Board Member Craig, thank you. And thank you, Board Member Fent. Sorry, I had my mic off. Board Member Craig, you have the floor.
Yeah, just the question I have is, will it make a difference as far as who builds it? Are they more likely to be local workers if it's local, or do people travel, a few hours around anyway, depending on the contractor? And then is there any difference on grid function at all? Is it better to have the generation nearer to the city than a couple hours away or something?
Well, none of these sites I'm talking about are a couple hours away. I think we're talking about, in the city versus maybe 45 minutes away kind of range. So it would all be in the southeastern Wisconsin grid. Yeah, I mean, closer is better because there is some transmission loss the further out you go. But that's all. It's kind of a trade-off between, easier developed stuff in rural areas. Easier developed meaning you have flat land. It's, easier connections to the grid versus even that site I mentioned in the city of Milwaukee. The reason it's available for solar is it's hard to develop for other things, right? So there's trade-offs on all of this. I should also note that we are still doing rooftop solar, and that's always a question. Why not just do rooftop? And it's really just a question of volume, right? Like rooftop's great, but a lot of times you can only power maybe 20% of a building. And when you do them on a ground mount system, you can have them so they adjust to the sun, and they can be, on racks that are 15 feet tall. So you can kind of get a lot more bang for your buck on these development sites. I have also reached out to the Southeast Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission and said, give us some sites that are not prime ag. Nobody wants to put solar on prime agricultural land. There's plenty of other rural development that is not, quote, prime ag. So, like I said, my approach would be, unless there's objections, would try to be to get a site in the city and match it with a bigger site somewhere in the 4 to 5 county area. And to Pam's question, or Board Member Fent's question, so we are working under the Renewable Pathways Tariff, and the Public Service Commission for the first time allowed us to put local worker requirements on a We Energies project. And so we've done that, even in Caledonia, there was RPP requirements there. But it's harder to get the contractors to fully comply with RPP the further out you go. So.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. Did you have your hand up as well? Board Member Frank had her hand up, and then we will go back to Board Member Fent. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's a little difficult without really seeing the scope of what the possibilities are for these sites. But one question that occurs to me is whether there's a possibility of looking at agricultural land that could still support solar panels, because certainly there are some models for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a topic we have to bring up with the solar developers. I don't think the stuff that they're doing currently has all of the stuff that you see on LinkedIn where they've got the cows underneath the sheep underneath the solar panel. So I don't think it's happening much in Wisconsin currently. But there are, I've seen it on the internet too, where you can try to mix both. But yeah, I mean, that's something I can talk to some of the solar developers about. Part of the issue, I agree, it would be nice if all of this was public, but they're trying to get land rights to do stuff, and so it's not always like I don't even have all the information sometimes as to what the developers have for options. So, but I'm happy to share it as soon as I have it.
Thank you. Board Member Fent?
Thank you. I wanted to respond to Mr. Craig's question about workers and traveling. I mean, I know people who have gone down to Pleasant Prairie and now are up in Port Washington, so people are willing to travel for work in the southeastern portion of Wisconsin. So I do think we could still have city workers. I know people who live in the city of Milwaukee who have worked on, both of those sites at either end of sort of the metro area. So I wanted to say that. And also, I'm really glad to hear that about the PSC allowing a local worker requirement. And I think that came out of some of the surveillance that the operating engineers union and the laborers union did on very early solar sites where like 62% of the cars in the parking lot had out-of-state license plates. And we insisted that the investments in sustainable energy had to have some requirements for local job and career opportunities. And at first, I think they just did, they'll insist that there's reporting requirements so that we can see what the lay of the land is. And it must have evolved since I retired from the laborers to be actual allowance of worker requirements. So that's really great news to hear that. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Fent. Any other questions or comments on this one? So we do have this listed as an action item. Primarily, does that mean, Director Schomburger, and I'm looking for some guidance from you and Analyst Geyer, that you are officially going to incorporate the feedback that you received here today in how you proceed, or what are you looking for in terms of an action item?
I guess I would be curious to know, like, if there was a motion, I guess, our folks, would people like to see a package deal where we had at least one site in the city where, people could see it and kind of understand what we're talking about and pair that with a more rural location? So we can get the balance of, encouraging education with the volume we need to get to 100% renewable by 2030. Because I simply do not have enough development sites in the city that our Department of City Development would be willing to give up exclusively for solar. And I know we have other land conservation requirements and other things in the plan that we don't want to see solar built over that either. So I guess that would be my motion, would be to, a two-part strategy of a city site paired with a rural site in the 4-county area.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. So I guess my concern is because we don't have anything specific attached to the agenda on terms of decision-making. I'm wondering if the motion, and I'll look for Analyst Geyer's input, should be to table this until our next meeting for more specificity. I don't know how that works with your time horizon.
It's fine. I think for the city site, what our Department of City Development had suggested, so we got this two-step going between the developer and We Energies and the city, and we have to kind of go all at once. We don't want to give the land to the developer unless we know We Energies is going to do it. So we've been thinking about kind of a two-staged process where we would give a solar developer an exclusive right to negotiate. So they don't actually get the land, but they have an exclusive right to negotiate the land to do solar. That would make that site public, and people would have a feedback opportunity there before we actually sold the land. So that's our next action move at the city level. In terms of a rural site, there's no two-step action there. It would just be we take it to the council whenever a project's ready to go. So I don't know if I'm being clear enough, but I guess maybe it would be, does the advisory board have any concerns about just that first site in the city, the Briggs Avenue site by the Job Corps? I guess I'll stop there.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. Analyst Geyer.
Yeah, so
Thank you, Madam Co-Chairperson. And I will defer to our committee coordinator just to double check my understanding of procedure, but typically you need to vote on most action items, you do need something in writing. I understand what Director Schambarger is saying about his intention. I believe you can vote, you can choose to take no action, or you can vote to lay it over to the next meeting to call the chair, whichever. But yes, typically votes are done on something in writing, which I'd be happy to talk to Director Schambarger offline to discuss what that could be for the next meeting. But again, I'll defer to our committee coordinator to confirm my understanding of procedure.
Or could I hold the item and type something up to you while some of the other items are going and reconsider this one towards the end of the meeting?
That's one option. You could, by unanimous consent of advisory board members, lay over item 4 until later in the meeting. That does not require a roll call vote. And we could just go to the next meeting. Once that item is ready, then I could go back and reread it into the record. The other option is if the advisory board is not ready to proceed with a vote because you need more information, whatever reason, you could certainly vote to lay it over to a subsequent meeting, which I believe would be probably sometime in January at the city. January 2027, you could elect to potentially do that. Or lay it over to the call of the co-chairperson. That could be another option, which means, it's not ready. So whenever the next meeting commences, then you could submit the information and the file will get recreated. So those are some of your options.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith and Analyst Geyer. Board Member Fend.
I'd like to make a motion to lay it over to the later in the meeting.
Thank you.
So Mr. Schambarger could get us something in writing.
Okay, so we have a motion to lay over this item until the end of the meeting for Director Schambarger to provide us with something specific to vote upon in writing. Coordinator Smith, would you please call the roll on that motion? Thank you.
Actually, that wouldn't require a roll call. It would just be unanimous consent. So you would just say, you can just basically say, we'll lay this over till later in the meeting.
Let's do it. Let's lay it over to later in the meeting. Thank you. So that then brings us to item number 5. And when you're ready, Coordinator Smith, would you please read that into the record?
Item 5, from the City of Milwaukee co-chairperson, providing an informational report regarding the City of Milwaukee's ordinance regarding the regulation of data centers. And this file is information only.
And I believe this will be presented or spoken on by Co-Chair Dimitrievich. Is that correct? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, just do a quick mic check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Co-Chair O'Connor. Thank you. Well, I just wanted to give an update as to where we are. I've spoken to, actually, now that I'm looking at the board, if it was bingo, I might be close to a bingo here, of people that I've spoken to on what is a developing piece of legislation at the city. And I say developing because what I've learned at my time at the city, when we try to regulate something and apply it citywide, it's quite a challenge. First of all, in this new economy, corporations and other businesses sometimes beat us to it. And I would give you some examples like vaping, short-term rentals, not saying that these all have anything in common, but even scooters, we're struggling to find a way to regulate them. And when we try to regulate them, applying it citywide in a city that does still suffer from some of our painful past is challenging. Actually, I can think of another example, which was food trucks. That was another fun one. But my point is, it's why it's taking some time. It's a fast evolving new item that really deserves its own zoning attention when it comes to data centers. Within itself, just like some of these, like a short-term rental or something like that, there is a spectrum of what, if we all answered, and I don't want to do that exercise today, what we think is a data center. Also, what we think is appropriate in a city would be quite different. But let me just start off with this. Why I took this on was not because I have a ton of time, but it's for some of the work that I've shared with all of you, which is a passion for a commitment to good regulatory policy, and then obviously climate and equity is why this has been something that's been important to me. And so what we have going forward, but it is evolving, is a 3-tiered approach. And I will submit some additional documents. I think there's a few that are in the file. And I should say before I forget that this item is set likely to go to the City Plan Commission on July 20th. That could change if it's not ready or we have more developments, but I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. It's a 3-tiered approach. In that it is a 20,000, 40,000, and 60,000 square feet, or triggered by the amount of energy being used. I'm going to stay at a really high level here, and I've had a lot of one-on-one talks with people who want the details, but it's a way to regulate it. I want to take a minute to talk about why we regulate it. I have talked to people who think that this regulation goes way too far and that it could prevent jobs and job creation and development. I've also talked to a lot of people who think that we should just ban it all. I think we strike a compromising balance. And if you were the type of person that wants heavy regulation and wants us to possibly say no to things, we do need to regulate it in order to do so. The top 60,000 plus square feet or likewise energy usage is actually a complete prohibition. I've had people use the terms moratorium, prohibition, and ban kind of interchangeably. They're not really the same. Many cities across the nation have chosen a moratorium while they figure out how to regulate it, because it is a fast-moving, economic piece right now, very fast-moving. Also, when I started along this endeavor months ago, I was told by some, really, do you think there'll ever be a data center in the city of Milwaukee, like a larger scale one? And I said, well, I've seen some things. We have some industrial sites. I'm nervous about my district because I do have some sites and it's right by the water. And quite frankly, I'll kind of conclude, co-chairperson, with there are a lot of unknowns. And I do think it behooves us to try to do our best to do energy analysis, water analysis, and as we move forward, we tread carefully in that regulatory way that I've set forward. One of the important baselines is that anything at any level, the 20, 40, or 60,000 square feet, would have to be in an industrial zone. After some talks with advocates on this very board, we're looking at what does that mean? Because there's actually a spectrum of industrial, light industrial, heavy industrial, etc. Last but not least, in the terms of equity, like I mentioned at the beginning of my comments, when we try to apply regulatory policy citywide, we are confronted with our very painful reality that not everything is equal in the city of Milwaukee. And therefore, there are some neighborhoods that have a disproportionate amount of industrial zones. And so we are taking a close look at that as well. The part I'm most proud about, friends on this, colleagues on this board, is the absolute focus on public accountability and transparency. What we witnessed in Port Washington and some other places, I think, was lacking in that. This has a built-in public component and path. So if we choose to say no, we could. If we choose to say yes, there's a lot of things that come with the yes in the legislation. You can see it as is, and it's developing a lot of requirements that come with a yes, if that's the choice. The middle level requires a BOZA, Board of Zoning Appeal, where neighbors are mailed to. What we saw in the Midtown conversation that was recently paused at the CPC level was that neighbors didn't feel included from the very beginning. And so we do want to change that, and we're looking at other ways. I'm meeting with groups like Metcalf Neighbors, et cetera, of how we can enhance neighborhood support early on within days of an application if it is received, and what that looks like. It will inherently be imperfect, but it's a path worth taking. And I just wanted to provide this committee with an update as to where we are. So if you came in late, July 20th likely will be the CPC meeting. It is very detailed because we're updating the zoning code. And then it could go to the zoning committee and then the common council afterwards. So with that, I know we wanted to be a little bit brief. This is not meant to debate this legislation, but a very important update, and know that I will continue to keep you updated.
Thank you, Co-Chair Dimitrievich, for that presentation that obviously reflects a lot of thoughtfulness on the topic. Are there any questions or comments from board members? All right, seeing none, we can move on to the next item. Coordinator Smith, would you please read in item number 6 to the record?
Item 6, from the Director, Office of Sustainability, Facilities Management Division, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report regarding Milwaukee County's Climate Action Plan and Progress Dashboard. And this file is information only.
Good afternoon, Grant Helly, Director, Office of Sustainability for Milwaukee County. Just briefly today, wanted to share a bit more regarding the Office of Sustainability's relatively recent update to our Climate Action 2050 plan. We give an annual update to the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, which took place in May of this year. And I just wanted to touch on 3 main highlights from that report. The first of all being an update on our operational greenhouse gas emissions reduction numbers. Second, a few examples of departmental progress as far as our Climate Action 2050 strategies go. And thirdly, next steps in our plans for a public-facing progress dashboard, which I've shared a little bit about previously with some folks here. Just real briefly, as part of our annual report that we shared in May, Milwaukee County officially reported an operational emissions reduction of 48% for our 2024 numbers, and that's relative to our 2005 baseline year. That puts Milwaukee County within 2 percentage points of our 2030 target, which is a 50% reduction. That also puts us on pace for our net zero operational emissions goal by 2050 as well. Those numbers, although they may not mean a whole lot to a lot of folks, were roughly 209,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2005. And we're now reporting around 108,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. This marks our lowest operational emissions numbers on record. I do also want to share that this is due to a variety of reasons. A lot of that is from right-sizing our facility footprint here in Milwaukee County. That also comes from our transportation operations and some of our investments in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and a few other things as well. 2 others, and then I'll pause for if there's any comments or questions. As far as departmental progress, as a part of this report, we did also share some of our accomplishments over the past 12 months, including starting on the implementation of our Climate Action 2050 plan, expansion of renewable energy, and a whole host of energy efficiency projects across all of our departments, integrating sustainability into our capital planning and sustainable design standards as well, and finally, our continued advancement of resilience and adaptation initiatives as well. Finally, currently in development, Milwaukee County is working on our Climate Action 2050 plan dashboard, which will be locally hosted. We're also looking to utilize Power BI for that. That'll be a publicly accessible dashboard on the Office of Sustainability's webpage. And we've been working very diligently with the Sustainability Task Force, leadership from our county departments, and we've even gathered feedback from a small work group from this advisory board members, if you will, and really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten there, and we're using that to inform our final decision-making for what that dashboard will look like. But ultimately, we wanted to provide transparency, accountability. We're going to track both our emissions reduction, our implementation on some of these very specific strategies, and this should allow both the public and our policymakers to monitor whether Milwaukee County is remaining on track for our long-term commitments. We're still finalizing a few things with this dashboard. We're considering how we can integrate potentially this with our existing energy dashboard. We're finalizing the detailed KPIs and the co-benefits that we want to share on this dashboard and that we've heard others would like us to share as well. We're also still ironing out a few of the visuals, accessibility, the education, the storytelling piece of this is still in the works to make sure that we're putting out a very inclusive product. And we're also looking at our internal process for how we will gather that data to ultimately share out onto the dashboard. And I will pause there for any questions or comments there may be.
Thank you, Director Helly. Questions and comments from board members? And welcome, Board Member Supreme Moore Omokunde. And I believe he's already been entered into attendance. Thank you so much, Coordination.
Thank you for having me. Series of unfortunate events get me here at this time. I went to the city of Milwaukee first, and then I didn't have my state ID, so I had to go through the regular path to get here. But that's okay. You gave a similar presentation at our 3-year anniversary. Is this the same information that you gave us there?
Yes.
Or is there something new that I need to?
No, thank you for the question. What I shared at that 3-year anniversary celebration of the city's climate and equity plan echoes what you can find from my brief presentation here today or the appended item or report rather from the May cycle as well. But nothing groundbreaking since then to answer your question briefly.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Board Member Omokunde. Also, I think the question wonderfully highlights the fact that Director Schomburger and Director Helly have been out in the community a lot, providing updates and really incorporating a lot of feedback. So I just want to thank them for all their work in that area. Coordinator Smith, would you please read on item number 7?
Item 7, from the Director, Office of Sustainability, Facilities Management Division, Department of Administrative Services, providing an informational report regarding the restructuring of the Office of Sustainability.
Again, Grant Helly, Director, Office of Sustainability, Milwaukee County. I felt that it was necessary today to provide a brief update on a few small, but I think positively impactful restructuring notes for the Office of Sustainability here in Milwaukee County. It's something that'll be seen with our requested operating budget in 2027. So I wanted to make sure to have the opportunity to explain it to our advisory board members, guests, and the public today. I'll be relatively brief on this, but what is changing with this, I should say, is the Office of Sustainability for 2027 is restructuring to become the Office of Sustainability and Facility Planning. This is not just a name change. This is truly us helping to integrate facility planning and capital development directly into Milwaukee County's sustainability work. Ultimately, every major capital decision that Milwaukee County makes, whether that be new construction, renovation, facility upgrades, that'll now run through a lens that considers climate, equity, and resilience from day one right up front. It's not going to be an afterthought. I don't want to say that it has ever been an afterthought, but this effort directly makes an effort to make sure that that is not the case. In our current model, facility planning and sustainability kind of operate somewhat separately within our facility management division. Our capital projects move forward, and then sustainability has an opportunity to try to influence that decision, influence decisions that may already be in motion, and moving this gives us an opportunity under the new model to coordinate both the what, which is our facility needs at the county, with the how, which is sustainable, equitable implementation from the start. Just quickly, a real world example of this. is this is exactly what our Investing in Justice Courthouse Complex project is already doing. This may be a project that some of you are familiar with. We, as a very specific example, are looking at how we will heat and cool this complex here in downtown Milwaukee. And those decisions are being evaluated both for fiscal responsibility and feasibility, but also as a decarbonization pathway that is an integrated model allowing us to make smart facility planning decisions, but doing that with a decarbonization lens to help us achieve this really necessary goal that's been set out for us. So what you'll see going forward with the Office of Sustainability and Facility Planning, we're going to integrate multiple functions. First and foremost will still be our countywide sustainability strategies. That's energy efficiency, greenhouse gas emissions reduction, other climate risk mitigation efforts. We'll still be implementing and tracking our Climate Action 2050 plan strategies, and we will still continue to have data-driven performance tracking across all county facilities and assets as well. Next will be our facility planning and capital development side of things, which integrates our long-term facility planning, capital improvement prioritization for the county, coordination before design and construction of projects, so in the planning stage, and also our facility condition assessment program that is now within the Office of Sustainability and Facility Planning. Lastly, sustainable design standards enforcement and oversight and advocacy will still happen from our office. This ensures that departments align all of their capital planning efforts with our recently adopted sustainable design standards, and will continue to improve energy efficiency of our county facilities through those design requirements. So ultimately, I just wanted to say that I think this restructuring formalizes something that I strongly believe in, which is that climate action and facilities investment don't have to be separate conversations. In fact, they're the same conversation, and I think we're going to continue to drive really impactful operational emissions reduction with this kind of restructuring moving forward. So I just wanted advisory board members and folks here to be aware of that. I would be happy to answer any questions either now or at a later date if there's any clarification needed from people there, but thank you.
Thank you, Director Helly. Any questions from board members? Board Member Frank.
So this, the restructuring sounds like a valuable move. Glad to hear about that. And I'd like to step back to a previous comment for a moment from Member Supreme Omokunde concerning June 20th celebration of the 3-year anniversary of the city's climate and equity plan. To clarify, it was an event put on by Our Future Milwaukee, the coalition that arose out of the climate and equity planning process. And it was a well-attended, successful event, and thanks to everyone who participated.
Thank you, Board Member Frank. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Board Member Moore Omokunde.
So one of the things I heard you say, and I'm going to paraphrase, is that this is something that's baked into the ongoing future thought process when it comes to infrastructure and things of that nature. And I think this is probably where this body comes in to participate, because one of the questions becomes, is this just the current philosophy of the current administration in Milwaukee County and the current county board, or is this going to be something that is baked in so that future administrations, future county boards, it is something that they will always have to take into consideration, or will it be able to be put to the side by a different philosophical standpoint? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Thanks for the comment. If I can offer just a really brief kind of rebuttal, I certainly agree. And I think a positive that I find in this is with our operational emissions, 2/3 of the county's emissions, we've reported this, come from our facilities and operating those facilities. And then Milwaukee County as a whole, this is not a secret to anybody, is currently operating within a difficult capital budgeting program, overall budgeting process. And I think being able to in some cases, for lack of a better term, sell these sustainability initiatives under additional lenses, being that fiscal responsibility, necessary life safety of facilities, if we can find a way that aligns all of those, while still keeping decarbonization efforts as the key factor within that. I think that's going to help the Office of Sustainability and Facility Planning to advocate with our departments who ultimately are making the capital requests. So I think it can be seen as a long-term, it will be sustainable long-term under different administrations or elected leaders to see that it's a kind of multifaceted decision-making group, or at least that's how I would like to lead that group moving forward. So hopefully that'll continue in that way.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we can move on then to item number 8. Coordinator Smith, would you please read item 8 into the record?
Item 8 from the Milwaukee County Co-Chairperson, providing an informational report regarding climate-related legislation from the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors, and this is information only.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. So I'll be presenting on this item, and it will be relatively brief, but I think it really comes out of what Director Helly just presented on the restructuring of the office, and also dovetails nicely with Director Schomburger's report, because as is nicely being illustrated during this meeting, the city and the county have different abilities and different purview. So whereas the city might be able to influence things through zoning, we don't have that ability here at Milwaukee County, so we have to take different measures when we're talking about sustainability and climate change. So we have communication channels and we have a platform. So we often use our resolutions here at Milwaukee County to communicate our values, and that is what the first item on this does. 26338 is a resolution that our board recently passed on reaffirming Milwaukee County's commitment to the principles and goals of the Paris Agreement, and affirming support for scientific conclusions of the greenhouse gas endangerment finding. So this is saying, despite maybe trends in other realms of government, that Milwaukee County still upholds the principles of the Paris Agreement, and we still intend to do our work here at Milwaukee County with those in mind. So I'll just be brief on each of these items. And then file number 26386 was an item that actually came before us in Parks Committee. So before this committee meeting, I received a question from a member of the public about agenda items that are impacting climate change. And my response is, some of them are more overt, but some of them we don't necessarily know until the committee discussion ensues. And this is an example of that. This in something that came before us in Parks Committee, where we were asked to provide an easement to American Transmission Company. And the justification was given that it does have to do with expansion of the grid. So that sort of sparked a little bit of concern for me because, and as you'll see the third one that I'll be presenting on, we've heard a lot about these rate increases by We Energies, activities of the Public Service Commission, how all these things may be in service of data center expansion, and so much unknown about the proposed rate hikes and how those might be a result of service to data centers, making sure that residents are not bearing the brunt of some of that expansion, both in terms of climate impact, but also pocketbook, financial impact. So there wasn't much we could do with this particular easement request. We were told by Corporation Counsel and others that if we denied it, the land would still be given for this purpose, and we would most likely be compensated less than what was offered on the table. But again, I did want to take the opportunity to highlight our values. So we did amend this agreement with just a brief statement that said, we have concerns about the way these measures are being taken without full transparency. Then the third and final item that I'll be speaking on similarly is an opportunity to uplift our values. Now, because of Milwaukee County process, the resolution first sentence doesn't exactly gel with the body, because once you have a resolution out there in the world, you may not change the title. So we ended up having a lot of feedback and discussion about the content. But basically, this resolution, again, talks about the transparency that residents and others are requiring around proposed rate hikes and expansion of the grid and what the impact would be on Milwaukee County residents. We used a lot of language that mirrored something that was adopted at the Intergovernmental Cooperation Council, which is representatives from all of the municipalities within Milwaukee County. It passed there unanimously. So it really shows how this is a huge area of concern for people and how more transparency is desired. This did pass at Milwaukee County as well. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions or comments. All right, seeing none, we can move on to, let's see, actually, if we are ready to revisit, we are not ready. Okay, we need a few more minutes. So, Director Schomburger, yes.
I guess if it's germane, I'd be interested in commenting on some of the state legislative proposals that we put forward. So in the city, we have administrative agencies can make recommendations to the Common Council about, legislative priorities, and obviously shared revenue is probably the biggest priority at the state level, but there's plenty of energy policy, as you noted, that happen at the state level. So some of the things that ECO is suggesting include things like a data center, more regulation at the state level around data centers. I know there was a couple of bills that stalled, but there are certain things local governments can do, but there's a lot more that can happen at the state level in terms of, requiring renewable energy and things of that nature. I think there's more that could be done on community solar. So right now, there is no statewide legislation authorizing community solar. Our local utility doesn't offer community solar, meaning where residents who can't put solar on their own roofs could buy in, to a larger system. So all those solar projects we were talking about, that's allowed for industrial and big commercial users, but there's nothing equivalent for residential users currently. So, so I'd love to see at the state level either legislation or our utility offering community solar as an option for residents. And then I think there's also probably room for public service commission reform with the new governor and the like. I mean, I think we have a regulated monopolies that are to be regulated in the public interest, and sometimes that process seems arcane and legalistic. And I know there's been plenty of situations where residents are speaking out and they don't feel like their comments are even appropriately considered, because if they don't have attorneys to go through this convoluted process, it's hard to have the average person have their voice heard. So those are some of the things that I think hopefully this advisory board and the state legislature can think about moving forward.
Thank you, Director Schomburger. And I think you raised some really excellent points, because sometimes we are limited in terms of, preemptive actions by the state, but that's where sort of the power of the people and where local government, I think, can really, have some impact. So thank you for acknowledging that. And again, the people on this board are the people that show up, really care about this space, and our voices can come together. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, Board Member Moore Umakunde.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to add on to what Board Member Schomburger talked about. At the state level, I'm glad he mentioned it, because there's a number of things that we're working on there. There's a bill, actually, that I'm a co-author of that asks for a moratorium on data centers at the state level, because there are some things we need to figure out. One of the challenges is that local areas, or you have businesses who work with local government, and the people there, even those in government, don't find out that it's a data center until they're trying to break ground or they're ready to do their business there. And I think that we need to have as much transparency as possible for local government, as well as residents who are in areas who may or may not want something. I think it's in a similar vein as what Co-Chair Dmitrievich is speaking about at the local level. And so there's that. And now a moratorium may need to be longer than a year or 18 months or whatever it might be, but I think it would inject some higher degree of regulation than we currently have. And I think there are those who are looking to come into communities because they don't see any regulation about it. So they're trying to get in under the radar before that takes place and trying to make it happen quickly. The second one is community solar. And I'm glad he brought that up too, because community solar it can be something that's positive. However, there's still this conversation about who is providing energy at that point, or who is an energy provider at that point. There's that debate at the state level. And also, there are those who were not into saving energy and helping folks out, who are now seeing dollar signs in their eyes, who are coming in and trying to get in on the community solar, and they don't want to hire union labor. They want to hire labor that is outside of union labor. For those who may not be supportive of union labor typically equals the best kind of labor. You pay for it, and it's done well, and it's done efficiently, and it doesn't set communities on fire. But there are those who are trying to go around those who are doing the best work, unfortunately. And then with PSC reform and conversations there, that's happening at the state level as well. When you're playing a team ball, so to speak, with partisanship at the state level, it's whichever party is not in control or in control gets to dictate the narrative. And the party that I am a member of has not been in control. And so many of the conversations we have and the bills that we have get stuck in Google Drives. And so we try to get them crafted. We talk to chairs, and they can't even get a hearing. However, there are those, the conversation is happening. The conversation is happening. It's a multifaceted conversation. The different aspects come into play, and we're trying to have those different nuanced conversations to kind of bring these bills to fruition. And there's some bipartisan support for some of it too, that I've been able to garner and talk to some folks about. So thank you for bringing that up. Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Board Member Moore Omokunde, Representative Moore Omokunde, and thank you for being the author of what you talked about at the beginning and being that voice at the state, fighting for these items and incorporating input of the folks in this room too for decision making. Really appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you so much. And now I will be looking to Coordinator Smith and Analyst Geyer to see if we are ready to return to item 4. We're getting the signal. Just a few more seconds. That's a great idea. So why don't we take a 2-minute recess? Everyone can get up and stretch their legs, and then we will reconvene. So we are adjourned for 2 minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the July 6th City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equity. We are reconvening after our recess. Thank you for your patience. Coordinator Smith, would you please call the roll?
Advisory Board Member Elliott.
Aye.
Oh. Present.
Present.
Fent.
Sorry.
Present.
Frank.
Here.
Helly.
Present.
Craig.
Here.
Rotana.
Present.
Schamberger.
Present.
And I still have Smith excused and Webb excused. Co-chairperson or Moramukunde?
Here.
Co-chairperson O'Connor?
Present.
Co-chairperson Dimitrievich?
Excused.
Looks like we have nine members present. There's a quorum.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. So we are reconvening to discuss item number 4, which was laid over until later in the meeting. We now have something that's been circulated via email.
I can reread it into the record, Madam Co-chairperson O'Connor.
Excellent. Thank you, Coordinator Smith.
From the Director of Environmental Sustainability, Environmental Collaboration Office, City of Milwaukee, providing an action report regarding potential large-scale renewable facilities locations, and this is an action item.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. So for members who are appearing virtually, you can find this in your email. We are working to make sure that the link is active in our County Legislative Information Center, and board members who are present received a printed copy as well. Director Schomburger, thank you for assembling this very quickly for us to consider. If you'd like to speak to the item, the floor is yours.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. So as we discussed previously when we were talking about this item,
Let me I apologize.
First we have to move to consider.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. So we will backpedal one step because there's this new item before us. We have to first, the committee needs to entertain, if this is the desire of the committee, a motion to consider the item. Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I move to reconsider laid over item 4.
Thank you, Board Member
Well,
Friend.
actually, it would be because there's an attachment that you've received. It would be to consider by the advisory board resolution since you've received that attachment. So that would be
Okay.
the correct motion.
Okay, I would make a motion to take into consideration the advisory board. Is that what you said? The advisory board resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Board Member Fent. Coordinator Smith, would you please call the roll on that motion to consider by the board?
Require a second. Oh, okay.
On the motion by advisory board member Fenn on the consideration of a by the committee resolution or by the advisory board resolution, advisory board members Elliott,
Aye.
Fent,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Moramukunde,
Aye.
Ratana,
Aye.
Schomburger,
Aye.
co-chairperson O'Connor.
Aye.
We have 9 ayes, 0 noes. The motion prevails.
Director Schomburger, would you like to speak to the proposed item?
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman O'Connor. The proposed item here identifies a two-pronged approach to encourage the city of Milwaukee to build solar in service of our renewable energy goals and climate change strategy. So what this does is it encourages the city to negotiate for the lease of land to a solar subcontractor called Integritas Realty or WEC Energy Group, which is We Energies, for the site located at 6601 West Briggs Avenue. So this is just a right to negotiate on this property. It is not, saying we should move ahead with the project because all the information isn't there yet. But it would allow us to start that process. And then it is paired with a second resolve clause that says encourages the city of Milwaukee to subscribe to additional solar site within the surrounding 7-county area for the purpose of powering municipal operations. So it's a two-pronged approach, have one in the city and one reasonably close within the 7-county area to try to help the city get as much power as possible. Part of the time sensitivity to all of this is the federal tax credits for solar expire at the end of next year. And so I would hope that we can take one of these projects forward for approval in the fourth quarter of this year so that there's enough time for the developer to build the project and get the tax credits. So with that being said, I guess.
Great,
Can I
thank you.
move? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Director Schomburger. Any questions from committee members on what is before us?
Are the two sites we were talking about earlier, are they contingent upon this going through, having both of them, or just one?
So right now, I am asking for, or propose that we go with both. I believe the staff person has prepared a substitute so that if people weren't comfortable with the suburban sites, we could easily do a substitute that strikes that second resolved clause. But yes, my desire would be to go with both so we can get, more power sooner.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Co-Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Board Member Frank.
To follow up on this inquiry that was just made, so the resolution would support negotiating on the Briggs Avenue site and also encourage consideration of another site in the 7-county area. But this, do I understand correctly, this doesn't indicate that if, let's say the Briggs Avenue went forward successfully, that could be completed without the second site necessarily, being successful. I mean, in other words, does this still allow for separating the two, as things play out?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. The developing solar in the city is more expensive than developing it in rural areas. And so when I talk to We Energies, I have been saying I'd like to do both. And recognizing that, yes, it's harder to do this project in the city, but we want something in the city and we want to pair it with something in, an easier project, so to speak, in a rural area.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I do have a question regarding the Briggs Avenue site. Has there been action taken by the city council to encourage negotiation on that site?
No,
Has there been any other public, or is this are we premiering this?
Yeah, this is the first one. So the developer has talked to the Business Improvement District to try to get their feedback. That was part of the discussion with the developer is like, at what point do we go public with all of this? But I think we have to, I think it's the sooner we learn from the data centers, the sooner you can give people some preview as to what's being contemplated, the better. So this is just, again, it's a two-step process. The city council would first vote on an approval to negotiate, and then we would come back a second time, so there'd be another kick at the cat to approve it or deny it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess my main concern just being that if someone from that neighborhood were to suddenly, see this for the very first time and without advance notice of necessarily being able to speak to this here, but they will have opportunity at there will be opportunities at the city. And do you anticipate when those would be for public comment on that proposed address?
Probably not until September, I would think. So, because the council is going to go into an August recess. So September or October would be the first public comment opportunity. And like I said, then there would theoretically been a second public comment opportunity.
Thank you. So what is the pleasure of the committee? Board Member Fent.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Board.
If we need a second, I would second the motion.
Thank you, Board Member Frank. And I apologize that sometimes my head is turned towards the screen instead of towards you. Thank you. Coordinator Smith, would you please call the roll on the motion?
On the motion by Advisory Board Member Fent, seconded by Advisory Board Member Frank, that by the Advisory Board resolution for item number 4 be approved. Advisory Board Members Elliott,
Aye.
Fent,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Helly,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Moore-Mukunde,
Aye.
Ratana,
Aye.
Schomburger,
Aye.
and Co-Chairperson O'Connor.
Aye.
9 ayes, 0 noes, the motion prevails.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith, and thank you, committee. Would you please read in item number 9?
Item 9, e-comments submitted to the City County Advisory Board on Climate and Economic Equity via the County Legislative Information Center. Click.
Thank you, Coordinator Smith. I have checked the e-comments online, and there are none. If any do come in, we will append them to the file. Having thus concluded the business of the July 6th meeting, this meeting is now adjourned.